listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Do you sometimes wonder what your kiddos will be like as young adults? It's hard to imagine sometimes when we're in the thick of it with parenting and homeschooling. It can be hard to believe that they'll even ever grow up, much less imagine what they'll be like at that age. But they really do grow up, believe me. And today on the podcast, I want to give you an update on my homeschooling journey so that you can imagine for yourself what life and parenting might be like for you somewhere down the road in the future. I want to offer you some tips for today and reassurance for your vision of the future. In our family, we started homeschooling officially back in 1996, and now my three kiddos are all in their 20s and 30s. Our oldest chose to go to school in 8th grade and went to our local public high school, and the other two homeschooled all the way through high school. And if you've been around here for any time, you may know that I was a classroom teacher even before having children. So I've taught in and experienced, I think, every possible educational setting, from public and private school classrooms to tutoring and homeschooling. That means I've been teaching for about 37 years. By the way, if you want to hear more about, read more specifics about our family's homeschooling journey, from how we got started to what it was like homeschooling three kiddos, go back and listen to the very first episode here on the podcast. I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes with a few other episodes you might want to check out. And you can find those show notes at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 199. Nowadays, all of our kiddos are grown and live out of town. Too far for this mama's liking, but they are all adults, have jobs they love, and wonderful partners. I savor the moments when our whole family is back together again at holidays, family events, summer camping trips, and in between on Zoom. Fun fact, when we have our family Zoom calls, we have to schedule 4 different time zones in the US. That's right, we're pretty spread out geographically, but we find ways to stay connected and get together as often as we can. So here's my first message for you today. Our children really do grow up. I'm reminded of the saying, the days are long, but the years are short. And it is so, so true. When I look back over our 25 plus years of homeschooling, I think the only thing I'd change is to relax more and worry less. I really wish that I'd understood earlier on that it's not about perfection, but all about connection. I wish I could have been more lighthearted and felt more confident, knowing it all works out just fine, no matter what we choose to do on any given day. Here are a few other thoughts I wish I had embraced. Uncertainty and doubt are part of the journey, and that's okay. Be patient with myself and my children because learning takes time. Critical self-talk is not helpful. Invite more acceptance and less anxiety because the days are long and the years are short. Of course, what we choose to do with our children matters, but the lessons are not all that matters. The relationships definitely matter more than anything else. When we're in the day-to-day of raising kids and homeschooling, it's hard to imagine a future when they're grown and flown. But that day will come, and the reality is that's our goal. That's the end goal that we're aiming for. We want to help our children go out and share their gifts with the world beyond our families. It's just hard to keep that goal in our vision when we're caught up in whatever needs our attention right now. I just want to reassure you that you can relax and simplify in your homeschooling life and still have everything work out. I am so grateful that all three of our kiddos, even though they're very different from each other, they share these qualities. They each love to read. They're really good at fixing things. They love to cook. They relish time in the outdoors and adventuring. They're kind and sensitive friends, and they're curious about the world, interested and interesting human beings. I love seeing them navigating the world as young adults in ways that bring them joy. Brian and I recently spent a long weekend with our kiddos and partners at a baby shower for our oldest. He and his wife are expecting a baby in just a few months, and this will be our first grandchild. I'm so excited. Needless to say, I'm really beyond excited. At the baby shower, everyone brought a children's book as a gift. And what fun it was to remember all of our kiddos' favorite books from when they were little. I cannot wait to read The Runaway Bunny, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, Blueberries for Sal, Stella Luna, and so many more to the new little one. Looking at all those sweet children's books on the new shelves in the baby's room made me think of all of my time reading with my kiddos on the couch, on the front porch swing, on a blanket in the yard, curled up before bed. Reading books aloud was a favorite part of homeschooling for me, and I can't wait to share all of those great books and stories with my grandchildren. Oh, and all the finger plays and poems and songs that I'll get to share over again with my children's children. Just the idea of that brings me so much joy. Lately, here at the Art of Homeschooling, my team and I have been recording and sharing some clapping verses and beanbag games over on social media. So be sure to check those out if you haven't already. I'll link to some in the show notes. Just this morning, while Brian and I were out walking our dog Gus, I saw this frisky little squirrel with an acorn in its mouth. And it reminded me of a verse we recently recorded. Sarah and I recently recorded this whiskey frisky hippity hop movement verse. That's so much fun to do with children. Many moons ago, I shared these with my children, and now we get to share them with the next generation. That is just so sweet. And here's another interesting way I use those songs and poems these days. My mother, who's almost 90 years old, lives nearby. She has Alzheimer's disease, and we moved her to Cleveland about 6 months ago into a memory care community. When I visit her, I sometimes recite poetry or sing with her, and it really lights her up. She also has those soft baby books to play with, the ones that include zippers or laces to tie, little latches to open tiny doors. I never thought that all my years with little ones at home and those kindergarten homeschooling years would help me in my time with my mother as she ages, but that's how it's going at this stage. The lively arts really do open the hearts of all ages. And also these days, I get to connect with so many homeschooling parents like you who are on this amazing journey as well. I'm just a little further along on the path. I feel so honored and grateful to spend my days guiding others on the homeschooling journey, helping you develop the clarity and confidence to find a path that works for you and your unique family. If you're looking for homeschooling support, I encourage you to check out all the ways I can help you, whether it's the Homeschool Simplicity 101 bundle or my membership community, Inspired at Home, where you can get the training, coaching, and community you need to make homeschooling work for your family. I'll be sure to link to everything over in the show notes at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 199. And let me just take a moment to say, I can hardly believe that this is the 199th episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast. Next week, for the 200th episode, we have a very special guest, so be sure to tune in. I'm so humbled by the reach that the simple act of recording an episode every week brings. We now have over 125,000 downloads, just mind-boggling to me. So thank you for listening. As we wrap up, here is my message to all homeschoolers. It's worth it. I want to assure you that you can do this homeschooling thing, even when some days are wild and wonky. I'm here to remind you that homeschooling is a long game and that you, dear homeschooling parent, are doing important work in this world. I hope this episode has helped you to see that you're right where you need to be. The goal of the Art of Homeschooling podcast is to help parents everywhere embrace homeschooling in a way that makes it simple, inspiring, and doable. Please share with your homeschooling friends who you think might benefit. And don't forget, you can always rate and review the podcast over on Apple or Spotify. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Enjoy your homeschooling journey, and I'll catch you next time for the 200th episode of the podcast. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.